Welcome to What Parents Whisper, the podcast that says the quiet parts out loud. Today, we're joined by Justine Murray from the Australian Nanny Agency. We've seen a shift in Australia lately. More families are stepping away from traditional daycare. What's behind that trend?
Thank you for having me, and we appreciate being on your podcast. What we're finding from families when they're ringing in is they're tired of the sickness, and then they're tired of being charged. So they can't go to work, they've been charged for their child to go to daycare when they haven't attended and the child's sick, but knowing that daycare has put another child in that spot because they've been marked absent. That's a real problem here. Also, with all the scandal that's been going on in childcare centres, people are looking for a better alternative. However, that's why we're pushing for CSS.
Is this just about cost, or is something deeper driving this change?
I think it is about cost, but it's also that daycare, centre-based care has been at the forefront and received a lot of government funding over the years. And parents want a choice on how their children are raised. There's a lot of research about how children under 4 should not be in daycare. They should be at home with a loving parent or carer. However, this is just not possible for a lot of families.
You work directly with families. What are they telling you behind closed doors?
They're telling us that they're frustrated. For example, when I go and see my granddaughter Kiki, I roll into town and it's generally during the week. Now, if I take Kiki out of daycare, my daughter gets charged $150 for that day. There's just no flexibility. And like I mentioned previously, that if the child's sick, then they replace that spot with another child. So they're getting the fees twice. Parents are just sick of the children being sick in the daycare centre, the staff look exhausted, and also they feel like there's no flexibility in childcare and how they can raise their children.
If someone's thinking about switching to a nanny, what should they know first?
They should know that it isn't necessarily affordable. Even a junior nanny is a minimum wage casual of around $33 an hour. However, the benefits for the investment is that one-on-one care, the educational scaffolding, and the fact that nannies generally look after a whole household, not just the children. Here at the Australian Nanny Agency, we try and accommodate every single family when they contact us.
What do you think needs to change in how we support families who choose in-home care?
I honestly think that the change is a simple one, and a lot of people have been advocating this for a long time. They do it with in-home care already, where there's one major agency that farms out all the jobs to families and other agencies. So they ring one central place, and then that agency finds an agent who then recruits a nanny. It is not difficult. They could simply do CCS for anyone that is diploma qualified, who's gone through early childhood education, centre-based care, and then is transitioning to a nanny. There is a job shortage in Australia. This would open up more jobs and it would relieve the waiting lists for childcare in Australia. A lot of areas can't access childcare, so this would also open up this. Australia is so behind. It's in its infancy. Being a nanny is one of the oldest professions in the world. Middle East have it. Europe and the UK have been doing it for hundreds of years. It's always been at the forefront of their childcare solutions and often funded. Australia just needs to wake up. And I can guarantee you, those people in power have a nanny at home for their children.
Do you think the current childcare subsidy system is fair for families using nannies?
I don't think the in-home care is fair at all. It's very limited and difficult to access, and it could be much more streamlined and open a whole industry that could support families in Australia.
Thank you for joining us on What Parents Whisper. These are the conversations that don't always make headlines, but they matter to the people raising the next generation. To hear more stories, follow along and keep speaking up, even when it's quiet. We'll see you next time.